Welcome back to the lecture series on the foundation course in electrical engineering on the unit electrical measurements, and this is the second video on electrical measurements. In the previous video, I discussed about the types of electrical instruments, their essential systems that are present in any measuring instrument as such, and I discussed briefly about the construction of wattmeter. In today's class, I would like to continue with the construction, working principle of wattmeter, and also we shall see how the energy can be measured. Okay, so I welcome you once again to this particular video. If you want the preview of the contents which I covered in my previous video, please go through my previous video. You'll find all the details in detail. Okay, and in today's class, I'm going to continue with the discussion on wattmeter. Okay, before I proceed, let me just briefly revise which I covered already on the wattmeter. Okay, what is wattmeter? You probably know already. An instrument which can measure the active power consumed by the load. Okay, what is active power? Power which is used or which is converted into useful work is basically referred as active power. Okay, and either it is converted into any useful energy, or it may be consumed, or it may be lost in the form of a heat. Altogether we call it as active power. Okay, now this particular instrument can measure the active power in a circuit. Okay, active power consumed by the circuit. Okay, and basically this is a dynamometer type of wattmeter. Dynamometer type of wattmeter or instruments can measure or can work with AC as well as DC. So this particular instrument can measure the power consumed by the load in AC circuit as well as in DC circuit. That is the speciality of this dynamometer type of wattmeter. Okay, so what it consists of? A wattmeter necessarily consists of two main things. Okay, one is fixed coil. Okay, and that fixed coil is split up into two equal parts which are placed apart, and on these coils basically, right, these coils have thick wire and of few turns. Okay, so but these coils are air cooled coils. Why air cooled? Because if I use the wattmeter with the AC, hysteresis loss will come into the picture. So if it is an air cooled coil, hysteresis loss would be minimum. So these two are air cooled coils having thick wire and few turns. Okay, why thick wire? If wire is thick, area of cross section is more, and if few turns, length is less, naturally resistance offered by these coils is very less, negligibly small. So it will not make any difference in the equivalent resistance of the circuit or equivalent resistance of the load. That means there will not be much losses that occur in the circuit even if you connect this in series with the load. Now when I connect that in series with the load, it will carry a load current, right, remember, and that load current would be very high. So you don't have more or significant losses in the coil even if it is carrying the load current when you have this type of construction. Okay, that is the expected thing. Ideally speaking, any instrument, measuring instrument, should not consume any power. So our effort will be, while designing the instrument, is to see that it has a very less resistance, so that the power consumption or losses should be as low as possible. So here these fixed coils, which are also called as current coils, right, are basically air cooled coils, thick wire, few turns and they are connected in series with the load. You can observe here from the supply you have a wire, and from the this particular coil you have a next coil, right, another fixed coil number 2, and from this it is connected to the load, and from the load it is connected back to the supply. So it is connected in series, so it is carrying the same current as that of the load basically. Next, we have one more coil which is called as a moving coil, and it is having a very light weight, it is having a very thin wire, right, and it is having multiple turns. Now look at the difference here. Thin wire means area of cross section is less, length is more because you have more number of turns. So naturally this particular coil will have high resistance. Why the expected resistance of this coil should be more? Because this will be connected in across, not in series, this will be connected across the load or across the supply where the load is getting the power. Okay. So now whenever we connect the instrument in parallel, we expect that it is measuring voltage, isn't it? Voltmeter we connect in parallel. So why? Because it is measuring the voltage. So what will happen now when I connect this in parallel to the supply? A small current, a very small current proportional to the voltage, right, will flow through the moving coil, and further current through this moving coil is limited by a high resistance. So you can see here some external resistance is also connected in series with the moving coil, which will limit the current. So very small current will flow through the moving coil, so that the current consumed by the load will remain almost the same. If this offers a very small resistance, naturally most of the current would have been diverted through your moving coil, isn't it? That should not happen. Keeping that in mind, resistance of this moving coil has been intentionally increased. Its work is only to sense the voltage. It is not measuring any current. Okay, so a small current proportional to the voltage will flow through the moving coil, and this moving coil is placed or it is pivoted on the spindle, and to the same spindle you have pointer attached. Okay, and this moving coil is free to move. It is having light weight, remember, to reduce the moment of inertia of the entire moving system. So this forms the moving system of the instrument, and the pointer can move over the graduated scale here. Okay, so this is the construction of a wattmeter. Let us try to understand how this is going to work. Working principle of the wattmeter depends on a very simple principle which you have already studied. What is that? Whenever a current carrying coil is placed in the magnetic field, it experiences the force. So the same principle we are using while designing the wattmeter here. Okay, now let us try to understand how this principle works here. Okay, so please remember, if I consider a DC circuit, in a DC circuit the power is basically equal to V into I, voltage across the load and current flowing through the load, V into I. So for a DC circuit, which is a very simple case, I should at least sense these two parameters. One is voltage, another one is current, so that I can measure the power. Okay. Now here in this case, what is happening? Current which is flowing through the load is sensed by the current coil. How? Because whatever is the current that is flowing through the current coil is same as that of the load current. Now whenever current flows through this coil, what will happen? It has a natural property, it will produce a flux, isn't it? That means it will produce its own magnetic field. Now here what will happen? In this air gap between the two fixed coils, whenever current flows through these fixed coils, it produces a flux, magnetic field in this particular air gap. Okay, so there is a production of magnetic field or flux, and remember, the whatever is the flux produced by the moving coil, it is proportional to the current which is flowing through the fixed coil. Okay, and what is the current flowing through the fixed coil? It is same as that of the load current. So whatever magnetic field that is produced in the air gap, it is proportional to, I can say, current flowing through the load. So this is how I sensed it. Okay, one parameter. Second parameter, I should sense what now? Voltage. Let's see how this is going to happen in the instrument. Okay, now you can see already we know that you have a moving coil. Now whenever current is applied or voltage is applied across the load, current is flowing through the moving coil, as well as some small current also flows through your moving coil. Let me call this current as I2. Okay, a small current I2 which flows through your moving coil. I can say moving coil is also called as potential coil, right? This current is proportional to V. V means supply voltage, or you can say load voltage, because they are one and the same. Assuming the instrument of the resistance of the instrument is very, very small. So whatever is the voltage across the load, same will be the voltage across the supply. Are you understanding what I am talking about? So look at this current which is flowing through the moving coil is proportional to the voltage. Now what has happened? Is it not the case of current carrying conductor placed in the magnetic field? Yes, it is. Already there is a magnetic field. In that magnetic field you have a moving coil which is experiencing the force because it is carrying current. Now these forces act upon the sides of the moving coil. Okay, and because of this moving coil starts to move, and since to the same spindle the pointer is attached, pointer also moves over the graduated scale. Now this is how deflection torque is produced in the wattmeter. I hope you are understanding. So we have a deflection torque. Now who is producing the control torque? These terms I have already defined in my previous video, part 1 on electrical measurements. What is deflection torque? What is controlling torque? What is damping torque? These terms I have already defined. So who will produce the controlling torque now? There are spring arrangements. See, there are phosphorus bronze springs which are attached to this moving system. Basically they form a leads to this moving coil so that currents can flow to the same. So they will produce a controlling torque. So they will limit the rotation of this pointer. How do they limit it? They will produce their own torque, which we call it the controlling torque. Now what will happen? Pointer will come to rest at that point on the moving on the scale where your deflection torque and your controlling torque produced by the springs becomes equal. So that is the steady state, final state. So at that point the pointer should stop, and to avoid the oscillation of the pointer across or along the final position, okay, damping is required. And what kind of damping is used in this particular instrument is air friction damping. Air friction damping is used so that pointer come to rest at a point and without any oscillations. Okay, so this is the fundamental working principle of the wattmeter. Now let me determine, find whatever some force is produced, so pointer will move, no doubt about it. But whatever force that it is producing or whatever deflection that it is producing on the scale, is that really proportional to the power consumed by the load or no? This is important, otherwise it is producing some deflection. Is it actually proportional to the power consumed by the load or what? This is what we have to show theoretically. Okay, so let us try to show that power consumed by the load is proportional to the deflection of the pointer. Okay, before I proceed and show it theoretically that yes, it is proportional to the power consumed by the load, I would like to define few terms. Let me define that V is the voltage across the supply, I1 is the current flowing through the load, which is nothing but a current flowing through your current coil, and I2 is the current flowing through your potential coil. This is what I am defining. So V represents supply voltage, I1 represents current flowing through your current coil, I2 represents current flowing through your moving coil. So this is what we have defined. Now in the last video only I have discussed, this represents the circuit notation or representation of a wattmeter. Okay, this shows current coil. Okay, it is connected in series, you can see it is shown in series with the load. So this is the current coil and few turns. Okay, similarly this represents potential coil or moving coil because it is connected across the supply or across the load, you can see. Okay, and it is having more turns, naturally showing more resistance. I hope it is clear. Okay, so this is a representation of a or circuit notation of the wattmeter. Okay, now having defined the parameter to be used, let me go ahead with the theoretical proof showing that deflection of the wattmeter is proportional to the active power consumed by the load. Let me assume that the nature of the circuit is a DC to begin with. So I'll assume that the wattmeter is used for DC power measurement. So if it is a DC power measurement, the things are very simple because only voltage and current are the two parameters on which power depends on and not the power factor. Okay. So let us define it. Since the fixed coil is an air core coil, whatever is the flux produced or flux density, right, magnetic field density, right, in the air gap, that is proportional to current I1. This is what I have already written. This is what I have written. Flux or flux density, right? This in turn is B, I can say, proportional to B. Okay, whatever is the flux density in the air gap, that is naturally proportional to current I1 because current I1 through the current coil is responsible for producing the magnetic field. Okay, so I can say that magnetic field strength is determined by current I1, which is nothing but load current, remember, very importantly. Next, you also remember that current flowing through the potential coil is proportional to the supply voltage. That is another very important point. Now let us try to understand how the deflecting torque is produced. Just look at this, the torque, deflecting torque produced or the force experienced by the moving coil is proportional to the flux density, right? That is the magnetic field density in the air gap and the current that the moving coil carries. What is the current that moving coil carries? The current carried by the moving coil is I2. So I can say that deflecting torque is proportional to B into I2. Okay. Now look at this further. I know that this B is proportional to what? It is proportional to I1 and I2 is proportional to what? It is proportional to V. So instead of writing this as BI2, I can write that B is proportional to I1. So I can write this as I1 into I2 is proportional to what? It is proportional to V. So I can say that this is V. That means you see this is proportional to V into I1. What is V into I1? V is the voltage across the load. I1 is the current flowing through the load. Is it not the active power consumed by the load? Yes, it is the power consumed by load. So your deflection torque TD is proportional to power consumed by the load. Is that clear? Right? We also know that there will be a controlling torque TC. And this controlling torque TC is proportional to angular position, right? Whatever the angle the pointer will make, right? Depending upon how much it moves over the graduated scale, whatever angle it makes with the reference, right? Think that this is my reference axis and look at this. This is my pointer which is moving over the graduated scale. Whatever is the angle that it is making with the reference, depending upon how much it is moving, right? How much it is moving, the controlling torque is produced. It's a spring basically. How much it moves, that much is the strength. You know, how much you stretch, that much more is the force produced by the spring, isn't it? Basically, so same thing applies here. So your controlling torque, which is produced by the spring, depends upon what is the angle that it makes, right? Angle made by the pointer with respect to the reference axis of the scale. So hence TC is proportional to what? Theta. It is proportional to theta. Now we also know that your pointer will come to rest. Pointer comes to rest at a point where your deflection torque is equal to controlling torque. And what is deflection torque in this case? We come to know that it is nothing but V into I1, and this is equal to what is controlling torque? We know that it is nothing but the deflection made by the, or angle made by the pointer, right? That is nothing but a deflection made by the pointer. So it is theta. Okay, that means I can say that deflection made by the pointer is directly proportional to power consumed by the load. Okay, so deflection of pointer is proportional to power consumed by the load. So this is how I can say that wattmeter can measure the power consumed by the load. Fine. Is it clear? Any doubt? If you have any doubt, please write your question in the comment box and send it to me. I will try to answer to your question in the comment box. If not, if it requires some explanation, I will clear your doubt in the next video. Okay. I hope that this particular discussion is clear. Assuming that it is clear, let me explain rather, if the instrument is connected to the AC circuit, how it measures the AC power. Okay. So this is just a little bit involved, because in the case of AC, power not only depends on voltage, not only depends on current, it also depends upon power factors. So for AC measurement, please remember that your P is equal to VI cos phi. Okay, so somehow we'll keep this aside, but keep this in mind. Okay, so keeping this in mind, let us try to understand how the instrument successfully can measure, the same instruments can successfully measure the current. Okay. Before I proceed further, I'll define the terms once again with respect to AC. See, if the voltage, we know that the voltage will be sinusoidal in nature, and any sinusoidal quantity, we represent it in this particular form, right? V is equal to Vm sin omega t. This is what you have already studied in your physics as well as in basic electrical, so I will not repeat that once again. So small letters always represents the instantaneous quantities, remember. Vm represents the peak value of the voltage, okay, and okay, so V is equal to Vm sin omega t. If this is the voltage, current flowing through the load is given by I is equal to Im sin omega t minus phi. Why phi? Why minus phi? Because I assume that load is inductive. Why should I assume inductive? Please note that you have three types of load. Resistive. If the load is resistive, voltage and current are in phase. That means that phase angle phi is 0 in such cases. It can be inductive. If the load is inductive, current lags the voltage by some angle, and that angle is phi, right? And since it is lagging, it is minus phi. Okay. It can be capacitive in nature. If it is capacitive in nature, right, current leads the voltage by some angle, that angle is plus phi in that case. But remember, practically most of the loads, 99% of our loads are inductive in nature. So hence fairly I can consider the load to be inductive. So if I consider load to be inductive, I can represent such a current flowing through such load as lagging current. So how to represent that? I is equal to Im sin omega t minus phi. This represents lagging current. So it is lagging by an angle phi. Okay, lagging what? Lagging the voltage, remember. So this you have already studied in basic electrical, so I will not repeat the explanation about it once again. So you have voltage something like this, you have current something like this. Okay. Now let us determine the average deflection torque. So why should I consider average deflection torque? I should consider average deflecting torque because the moving system has some moment of inertia. Okay. So if the moving system, if the deflecting torque has to overcome this moment of inertia, I should consider what? The average deflecting torque. Okay. So let us consider average deflecting torque. Remember, this average deflecting torque is proportional to what? Average value of the product of instantaneous voltage and instantaneous current. Okay. So hence this average value, what is V1? I know already, sorry, average value of the product of I1 and I2. Why I1 and I2? Because I1 is the current flowing through your current coil, I2 is the current flowing through your potential coil. So let me write this. So average value of deflecting torque TD is proportional to average value of the product of I1 into I2. I1 is the current flowing through current coil and I2 is the current flowing through the potential coil. But you know that current flowing through the potential coil I2 is proportional to what? It is supply voltage V. So I can write this further as average value of the product of I1 into V. I hope it is clear. So this is proportional to now average value of, right? Substitute the terms for V1 and I1. I have already defined what is V1, what is I1. V is this and I1 is this. So let me substitute this. V is Vm sin omega t multiplied by I1 is Im sin of omega t minus phi. Same thing is shown here. Okay. Now you have to simplify this. Okay. So simplify this. So this is proportional to, right? What is, how to simplify this? So let me write this once again. Okay. This is proportional to average value of, once again, let me combine these terms, constants Vm, Im. What you have here is sin omega t into sin of omega t minus phi. So how do you simplify this further? This is nothing but, see this particular product, it is in the form of sin A into sin B. What is the sin A over there? A term is this. If I regard this as A and if I regard this as B, sin A, sin B. What is sin A into sin B? It is 1 by 2 into cos A minus B minus cos A plus B. Am I correct? Okay. So let me use the same thing. 1 by 2 into 1 by 2 into cos of A minus B. A is omega t minus B is omega t minus phi. Okay, so minus omega t, minus of minus, it becomes plus phi, correct? Minus, okay, let me use this bracket. Okay, cos of A plus B. A is once again omega t plus B. B is what? Omega t minus phi. Let me write this as it is. Is that clear? Is that clear how I am doing this? So if you simplify this further, so your deflection torque TD is proportional to, it is Vm Im divided by 2 into cos of omega t cancel, it becomes cos phi minus cos of what you have, omega t plus omega t is 2 omega t minus phi. Are you understanding what I am talking about? Now let us see, if I simplify this further, this deflection torque, okay, TD, average value of the deflection torque is proportional to average value of this. See, this Vm Im divided by 2 can be rewritten as Vm divided by root 2 into Im divided by root 2 into, okay, cos of phi, isn't it? Cos phi minus cos of 2 omega t minus phi. What is this Vm by root 2 and Im by root 2? Vm by root 2. Maximum value divided by root 2 always gives you what? RMS value, isn't it? So it is Vrms into IRMS. We never designate if it is RMS value. We don't specifically mention it. Okay, we'll just write it in the capital letter, and in AC it is understood that it is a RMS value. So it is V into I1, you can say. Okay, V into I1 multiplied by, if I multiply this product with the terms inside the bracket, Vi1 cos phi minus Vi1, right, cos of 2 omega t minus phi. So you can just see here, deflection torque depends on two terms. This is term number 1 and this is term number 2. Out of this, if you just observe, this second term is a periodic waveform. Can you observe this? It is a cos of 2 omega t minus phi. It means what? Over a period of time, when you have a periodic waveform, if you calculate the average value works out to be 0. Okay, so average value of this particular second term is 0. Why? Because it is a periodic waveform. Periodic term or periodic waveform, and average value of any periodic waveform, this is what you have proved already in basic electrical. Average value of any periodic waveform, if you take over a period of time, it is 0. So second term works out to be 0 here, because remember, I have forgot to write, it is average value. What I am talking about is average value of deflection torque is average value of this product. Okay, so hence now your deflection torque TD is proportional to Vi1 cos phi. What is this Vi1 cos phi? It is the active power consumed by the load. So deflection torque is proportional to active power consumed by the load. But we also know that controlling torque TC is proportional to angular deflection made by the pointer with reference to the reference axis, and it will come, the pointer will come to a rest at a point where your controlling torque and deflection torque becomes equal. So at steady position, at steady state, your deflection torque is proportional to controlling torque, and hence deflection torque is VI1 cos phi and is proportional to the deflection made by the pointer theta. Okay, so I can say that whatever is the deflection that is made by the pointer is proportional to the power consumed by the load. So deflection of the pointer is proportional to active power consumed by the load. So your instrument will read the active power on the scale, on the graduated scale, after you calibrate the instrument. Okay. For example, if I, if say I'm using the wattmeter for the DC circuit, wherein the supply voltage is 100 volts and the current consumed by the load is say 1 ampere. In that case, the power will be 100 watts. So when I connect the instrument and when I switch on, right, the pointer should show how much? 100 watts. Okay, so calibrate the instrument. As soon as I switch on that, it should show me the 100 watt. It is moving, no doubt, but you have to calibrate that so that it reads the correct value. Okay, so the calibration is very, very important. If you don't calibrate the instrument, it shows the wrong reading. Okay, so this is how wattmeter works with both AC as well as DC and can measure the AC power as well as DC power. Okay. So this is all about the working principle and the construction of wattmeter. Please go through this particular video, and if you have any doubts, you can always come back to me, revert back to me via the question posted on the comment box. Thank you very much.